Well, very nice to meet you all. Thank you so much for joining me today. In the time that we've got about 30 minutes, which I think is great. So let's see just how engaging and inspirational we can be for our audience here. Can we start with that really, I think, quite inspirational quote from your CEO, Mark? So maybe I'll let you say something about that first. But how does that make you feel, this idea that suddenly we're looking at a new paradigm in global luxury hospitality, and here you are right at the center of it?
First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. Glad to be here. And obviously the hospitality scene and the F&B scene in Saudi is buzzing. To refer to Mark's quote, I think what is happening in Saudi is, and what is happening through boutique that we believe encapsulates the Saudi hospitality, is to embrace the Saudi hospitality that is based on warmth, generosity, but also other finer layer of that are maybe less obvious to the people. One of them is how deeply ingrained is the F&B into the hospitality itself. If you look into the Saudi tradition, the coffee protocol, the date protocol, so food is very intimately linked to the hospitality. There's also the oral tradition that is in Saudi Arabia and the Arabic Peninsula in general. So we like to tell stories. It's part of the hospitality, and boutique aspires to do that, to tell a story, to tell the story of Saudi Arabia to Saudis, but also to the world. And hence Mark's quote is to set a new benchmark. We know certain types and styles of hospitality, the European way, the Asian way, the American way. So Saudi also aims and strives to establish new standards in the way we deliver hospitality, but also in terms of brands and services to have something that is of global benchmarks as well.
Yeah. Now, Michael, how do you reflect on that? Because you're also part of a group that has a wider remit, don't you, in terms of everything that Al Khozama does. So, tell us what that quote makes you think about in terms of the opportunity and what are those special qualities that you think are going to be built on?
I think what's really unique as well is that, Saudi hospitality is really inbred for thousands of years. If you go back to really Mecca, Medina, where the first tourists came. So Saudi tourism is thousands of years old, actually. And that hospitality. I've been in the region and the kingdom now for 12 years, and actually 9 years with His Royal Highness Prince Bandar. And it's interesting, and my wife actually is Saudi, so having that sort of cultural shift, seeing all these things happening, understanding that what has been sort of hidden from the world for a long time is now becoming more exposed in that sort of profile, and that presence, that warmth, the hospitality. And it's extremely unique, and absolutely right about that sort of F&B hospitality combination of things that way. It's about that cultural shift of going to someone's house, being invited in, straight away being offered food and coffee and dates, and lots of it to ensure that. And that's really integral to that level of quality that you see around, in this country. And it's very exciting to see this paradigm shift which is happening now.
Now, Ada, before joining Together Group, your background was very firmly in F&B, both here and in the UAE. I know you worked for Jumeirah for many years. So how do you reflect on this idea of this rise, this preeminence of the hospitality of the kingdom?
I think what we see nowadays with the kingdom is that hospitality really emanates from the private realm. And what we're going to see now is how that moves to the public realm and to the commercial realm. And if we have to take the region as a whole, to me, hospitality here is way more warm and generous and genuine. And it moves very much from the opulent and the grandeur and the gold to moments, personalization, and relationships. And the key question for all of us as experts in the industry is really going to be, how will we define commercially and professionally Saudi hospitality? And I think players like Boutique Group and Al Khozama and many others are going to take a key role in doing that.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge our panelists now. This isn't prepared at all, by the way. So we're talking about define and definition. Let's do that right now. I want you each to think of the 3 key words that for you define this idea of what is going to make Saudi hospitality different from what we might expect to find at Claridge's or from the Aman Group or from any of those kind of hotels. What is it that you're going to do differently sorry to put you on the spot, but
Really?
you're all experienced professionals. So come on, let's see what you come up with. Arda, go on. Why don't you start?
I think sophistication is key, and that is what to me is very different. Heartfelt, absolutely, and genuine.
Good words. Good words. Daniel, let's go back down this way.
So I would say, warmth, and, honesty, and I was going to use genuine as well. I think that's really, really important because I think that really does come from the heart, I think, and how the experiences are portrayed.
Very nice.
I think it's the key is to pull from your own cultural identity.
Yep.
One of the key words.
3 words.
Authenticity.
Good.
Personalization. Stories.
Nice. I hope you're all writing those down because that is the benchmark framework you now have for your branding moving forwards to create a globally successful international brand. I think our job is done here. We could leave now.
Can send the invoice.
So thank you very much for doing that. I hope you didn't mind me putting you on the spot. But given that we know that you are now set for some unprecedented development here in this market, as we heard from the presentation, what was it, 150 million tourists expected to reach that kind of level by 2030. You've got a job to do, haven't you? You've got a big job to do. So what are the trends that you're banking on for your businesses that are going to ensure success? Tell us a little bit about your plans at Boutique Group to ensure that you're going to be on the money by 2030.
As you mentioned, to be able to attract that amount of tourists, there has to be something for everyone. You cannot attract that large amount of visitors on a single product. The beauty of Vision 2030 that it is broad and bold. So you have a lot of product. Our job at Boutique is to cater for a specific niche of the market, which is the ultra luxury with a strong heritage content. So we are at the intersection of ultra luxury, hospitality, culture, heritage, and this is where we play our part.
Daniel, what about you?
Michael, sorry.
Oh, Michael, sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Close enough, no problems. But I think, it's interesting, that the market is very unique. And as you sort of move up this scale, there's also a lot of challenges, and there's a lot of challenges and there's a lot of sort of, it's a moving sort of modular, fluid structure that we're looking at. And if you look at luxury in retail, luxury in hospitality, luxury in F&B, it's very holistic in its approach. And each of those sectors works very closely together. And I think this is where, as the country learns and develops this sort of hospitality component combined with this F&B, what's very, very key is how it then develops something which is for all people, but is also unique enough to bring people to the region, to the kingdom specifically. And it's coming in at an interesting cycle. It can learn from past mistakes of other countries and other areas and other regions, and it can also manage that process in a very specific way going forward. And this is very key, and the F&B has been a good indicator of that. 23 was a very challenging year for the F&B sector, extremely challenging, and there's a lot of capitulation. And I think really learning from these, as I said, mistakes, understanding the core fundamentals of what you're trying to do, making sure that there's sustainability, there's heritage, and also legacy that's created as well is really, really integral. Because you're not building something for the short term. What we're creating is something for the long term.
Yes.
That really that is sustainable. And that's really integral to how you build that into your mindset, how you build it into your structure, your strategy, and your approach. And that's key. And you have to obviously then make sure that it has that support fiscally, commercially, strategically, that you make sure you tick all those boxes in the right way, but you deliver the right value at the same time for the long term and the longest time horizon possible.
That's brilliant. And so building on that, Arda, what are some of those key ideas or trends that best define what's happening in the industry right now? What is it you're seeing?
So what we're seeing in the hospitality industry, and I've been in the Middle East for 10 years, I've lived in Riyadh for 3 now, is you see that the global players are in town, both at a hotel level, F&B level. To me, that's excellent because it gives credibility to the market, which is really good. You see as well smaller players being very interested in Saudi. So for me, the tagline is everyone wants a piece of Saudi. You see smaller players globally that want to come in. You see local players that are very strong in what they do, but smaller local players and Saudi enterprise coming up as well. And then individuals at a different industry level, doesn't have to necessarily be hospitality and F&B, but also arts, culture, fashion, etc., that are flying on a solo level to Saudi, trying to network and understand what's the opportunity. So you have the very global players, the mid-level, and then the individuals. So Saudi is really in the spotlight globally and regionally.
Well, let's explore that in a little bit more detail, especially for our guests who are here in the audience for whom this is maybe their first time coming to Riyadh, so maybe are a little unfamiliar with the F&B scene here. Tell them what they can expect when they leave their hotel and they go out looking for somewhere to eat tonight. What can they expect? What are they going to find? How would you define the F&B scene? Who wants
So what I would say is that the fine dining space is quite developed and it is very good. Again, it adds credibility for someone coming from abroad, knowing that we have a Zuma or an Amazonico, which is going to open, or we have an LPM. That actually gives a sense of trust and safety. This is a global city I can relate to. From a Saudi enterprise, which is something that you mentioned in the report, we also see smaller investment happening in the casual space. So you see amazing coffee shops burgeoning, you see amazing pastry and cake industry being developed, and that is all about the youth of Saudi. So I encourage people to try those concepts. Where I see the opportunity is in the upscale and homegrown spaces, which is not fully developed now, but it is normal. I think we will see an acceleration of the upscale and homegrown spaces coming in the next few years, when all of this resident talent has learned from very, very strong groups locally and globally that are present in the city, and then feel more comfortable into launching their own homegrown spaces. But the tourists today definitely can find brands they know from abroad, amazing local concepts, and also some Saudi food.
Yeah, I agree. We acquired LPM worldwide in 2021 and have expanded the brand. And so we have an interesting insight into how the market works in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Doha, Vegas, London, and Riyadh. And, fine dining is a word that has been thrown around a lot in the last couple of years in that sector. And really, fine dining, what is fine dining? There are not that many fine dining brands in the world, really. But what you have here is a unique group of brands in a certain category, and a lot of those different areas. But I think there is a huge gap. You have a lot of casual fast food. You have fine dining brands that not necessarily are representative of what they should be in their home countries. I think there's still a gap, operational gap in managing these brands. I think that's very, very important. I think there's very few internationally recognized brands that actually work well in the city. And I think there's a huge gap in the casual premium space. And I think the fundamental mistakes really are, apart from wrong deal fundamentals initially, is everyone's gone way too big. Everyone's looking at these 1,000 square meter locations. And you look at something, certain brands where, in London, they are 3 times smaller than they are in Saudi. And you have a huge amount of tourism. So the logic is, well, why would you do that? That additional cost and expenditure, that's very challenging, I think, for a group that has multiple brands. So I think, what's important is you have this great section of fine dining brands, highly recognized, that are in, DIFC or in London, New York, Paris, etc. But there is a huge opportunity, I think, in that casual space that really not necessarily reflects a lack of quality, but what's more important is intrinsic value.
Yeah.
I think the key issue actually is there's a misunderstanding of spend. And I think a lot of people say, Dubai can do this, so Saudi can do that, and it could be supercharged. And that's a huge misconception on understanding the market fundamentals. The spend actually is more challenging. The buying power is different, city tier 1 to tier 2. So when we look at this, my background is investment banking, so from an analytical perspective, you analyze a lot of data continuously to understand why does something work,
yes,
and why doesn't it work.
Yeah. And again, I think what came out of our report from some of our experts, and I'm thinking specifically actually of Rosanna Chopra from Red Sea Global here, was that the expectations of your Saudi nationals who are going to be spending more time here in the kingdom to holiday, to relax, and to enjoy the upscale benefits that are happening right here at home means that you're going to have a very tough home market, aren't you, of a very critical market, I think, at times, to have to please and have to service. Hicham, any thoughts on that?
Absolutely, and I think from the document presented by Together Group, you have some interesting insight as well. It's important to understand the persona of the guest. So the Saudi guest is well-traveled. So they have a good benchmark in general, whether it is to maybe neighboring Dubai or Europe. So it is a discerning guest or client, especially for F&B. The Saudi guest is very highly engaged digitally, far more than the global average. And he seeks and values maybe more than the average convenience and personalization. So in order to cater for the sector, you need to be able to address these requirements. And there is also that constant constant balance between staying relevant locally, but also having something of a global stature and global resonance.
Yes.
So I think some of the brands that manage to balance these two will be successful. And as we all probably can agree, F&B is a local business. Even us as a hotelier, we care about the local clients, the walk-in guest, and the local. So you have to be relevant to locals first before expecting to grow further.
Yeah, no, very, very important. I'd like to stay with you, Hicham, because I'd like to explore in a little bit more detail the relevance and the importance of the growth of this notion of Saudi first, and what its influence and its impact is going to be on the F&B sector within hospitality. Because if we turn to you first with Boutique Group, obviously this is a homegrown concept, which is, I think, a really important development that we've got going on here. Do you think there's going to be an appetite for homegrown Saudi food concepts that become Michelin star winners? And if so, are you going to be the first home of that first Saudi Michelin star?
I think we have all the reasons to be optimistic. I mean, for boutique and for the market in general. First of all, the ecosystem is very favorable. From the training, from the funding, from different aspects, from the Culinary Art Commission. So the whole ecosystem is pushing towards innovation. You have a real estate deal flow that is very daring. So you have a lot of innovative projects. So you have all the reasons for you to have something innovative. Now the real challenge is how to translate a strong concept that is culturally relevant into operation and services that are scalable, that are sustainable. So I think this is where the real resilient businesses will thrive, is how to translate that into procedures, into systems and all of that.
Yeah.
But there is no reason why we should not have some. We already have some of the F&B unicorns, but as it was mentioned, it's rather on the hyper casual or on the ultra fine dining. So the space of the maybe premium casual or elevated casual is probably where the next unicorns will come from.
It's going to be a sweet spot. Yeah, Ada, have you got any thoughts or reflections on that?
Yes, I think the market will give place for Michelin stars, but if we look at it on how Michelin stars will impact nation branding, and how nation branding can impact then that creation of the ultra avant-garde fine dining, I think what will be interesting is for Saudi to really have those superstar chefs that they can take support from, that will push the gastro-diplomacy agenda of Saudi as a nation globally. And to me, the success will be when we see Saudi outposts everywhere else in the world. And we see those concepts in London and in Spain and in the United States. And if we continue talking about nation branding, if you see the example of Peru and Peruvian food, that to me was the absolute best nation branding campaign, because the success was to have people globally understand Peru, and they did that through food. The success to me was not obviously that they drove visitation, but they made global chefs and global operators think that it was essential to have Peruvian concepts in their portfolios. And people learned about Peru without the need to buy a ticket. And my question is, can Saudi do that? Can local operators create the first unicorn Saudi concept at a fine dining or upscale casual space? And can we export Saudi to the world?
Michael, have you got some thoughts or some aspirations
well,
in that field?
what's interesting, so, 3 years ago we looked at the market and there's a huge amount of sort of value leakage within the kingdom of a lot of brands that are being brought in and imported in as well. So we created a concept which is actually currently operational called Maze. So Maze is a Saudi concept created with the Ministry of Culture and the Culinary Board of Saudi to create a unique opportunity of Saudi chefs, Saudi ingredients, homegrown. And the objective of this really is to incubate these concepts within the kingdom and to export them out to more mature markets, exactly as I said. So we felt this was really, really important, and we had huge tasting sessions actually, you know, with Saudi families. Obviously, they're always going to say that their mother did it better and their father did it better, and we fully agree. So we understand there's that sort of a slight fusion angle to it. But it's something that we're excited about. It's currently actually in Diriyah, in Bujeri Terrace now, and it's doing extremely well. Very interesting, and I know that that a lot of people are taking there, a lot of groups are taking there. So our objective really is to incubate this brand, develop it in the right way, both organically and inorganically, and create different areas, so maize cafes, etc., and then export it outwards. What's interesting actually is we've had, I think, 7 different approaches, 7 different countries. We've been offered spaces in London, in Paris, in Melbourne, Sydney, Dubai, and New York. So there's already an interest in the food. It's not fully traditional. I want to be very careful how we do that, but it's slightly a fusion component to it. And I think some people will experience that tonight when we have it on our green here, I believe.
I went on Saturday.
Oh, I hope you enjoy, I hope you had a good experience.
I loved it, yeah.
Food is fantastic, and I should never discuss food when you're not at breakfast. It's not a great thing to do. But the point is, I think it's extremely exciting. So that is an example of a Saudi company who's creating something unique, innovating and incubating an idea to then export that out. And we'll do that across other areas as well. And even with LPM, you know, we've looked at how can we try and adapt maybe LPM on certain dishes in certain territories as well. How do you look at that idea? So we look at that also in a more organic way as we expand the LPM brand as well in different areas.
Yeah, no, very good. Very good. Now, I think given that the topic for this in conversation is the idea of unleashing potential here in F&B, I think it would be remiss of me not to ask you all to reflect on the issue of alcohol. Now, I know this is a very sensitive topic, but what I'd like you to do is reflect on this through the lens of our new Codes of Luxury in Saudi Arabia report, which I think clearly begins to demonstrate that there is a growing desire from international consumers to actually drink less, and if anything, to not consume alcohol at all. So if the statistics globally are showing that there is a growing percentage of people for whom alcohol is not a constituent part of the dining experience, what are the opportunities here in Saudi Arabia?
Absolutely. So if I may go first, and we see this with global operators globally, and you mentioned this in the report, and we thought if people drink less, why wouldn't that give the opportunity to local groups to actually drive innovation globally for mocktail bars? We see already the youth hanging out in coffee shops, and they stay, 11, 12, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and we see that coffee shops have become those local hangout spaces. Why wouldn't that be a possibility with a mocktail bar? And I think it's the opportunity for groups that are here, like Boutique and Khozama and many others, to really say, let's drive the best standards globally for this market.
Yeah.
Just to elaborate on that, on the taking the example of Boutique. So Boutique, we have a culinary strategy that is tailored to us to deliver our mandate. So on the beverage part, we have plans to partner with a celebrity mixologist. The research is towards flavor, complementing our F&B and all of that. So we take the bar component as an extension of, as part of the F&B palette. In terms of flavors, there are a lot of research that is done. And we also believe that, and this is a strong trend, as you mentioned, of people being more health conscious, more well-being focused, maybe more towards longevity lately, and we address that part as well.
Yeah.
But no compromise on the quality, no compromise on the flavors, no compromise on the service delivery, the OSNE and all of that.
Yeah. Michael?
I think post-COVID, there's the behavioural changes, this conscious really awareness on wellness, and health is very, very key. And I think less people, are consuming alcohol, less consumption of sugars as well. And we've seen that in our mocktails. We have a particular mocktail in LPM called the Black Lemonade, which is my favorite drink, and I tend to drink sort of 4 of them over lunch. But it's a fantastic, very simple drink that's made extremely popular. And a lot of my friends that go to our LPMs around the world, where there is alcohol present, actually go for that particular drink as an example. We were talking to somebody in London who's bringing out a non-alcoholic champagne, and this was, again, it's about authenticity and taste. If you do really miss that without having that alcohol content, and what these guys created was the closest thing that we felt to a non-alcoholic champagne that didn't taste like a sweet apple juice or whatever else. And that was really, or grape juice, and that was really key for us. So I think as this progresses and as the demand increases, the quality and expertise in delivering high-end non-alcoholic beverages is improving consistently. Mocktails and mixologists are coming in all the time. We have those in all our restaurants, whether it's Mamo or LPM, etc. And even ones that we've signed that we haven't opened yet. We're looking at all these mocktail menus and creating these ideas. When we signed Hakkasan and Yuaucha actually created 50 mocktails specifically for the Saudi market. They were so well received that those 50 mocktails then became stable within all the other restaurants worldwide. So we're seeing a propensity to move casually towards that non-alcoholic drive for health reasons, for multiple reasons. And I think the execution, quality, flavors, and taste are much stronger and more enhanced. So it's an important drive.
It's a hugely important drive, isn't it? And again, it's one where Saudi is going to be first, I think, in terms of being able to lead from an innovative and from a progressive perspective in terms of being ahead of the curve, which of course being a futurologist is one of my favorite expressions. Well, in the time that we've got just to finish, I'd like to ask all of you to maybe just again reflect on this idea of where you think your success is really going to lie moving forwards in terms of this idea of the progressive and the innovative nature of how the F&B industry here is continuing to evolve. So what do you think is going to be the key marker of your success, Hicham?
I think if you want to look at the success, you need to look at what are the potential challenges. Of course, the market is very positive, huge supply, but it's not without challenges. And the most successful will be the one that can overcome staff retention. I think that's something very important. Attracting local talent, training them, retaining them is extremely important. There is also a major challenge that Michael touched upon, which is calibrating your investment. We have a lot of examples of overspent, underspent. So I think as the market is marching towards maturity, it's going to be important to spend right. It costs a lot to develop a hotel or F&B. So I think the most successful will be the one that will take care of the staff aspect, that will calibrate there. And lastly, the concept. Yeah. I think the concept has to be extremely solid. It has to reflect authenticity. The market is asking for even deeper concepts, more granular concepts. So the stories, the concept has to be very, very solid.
Yeah, thank you. Michael?
It's about consistency and operational expertise. And it's understanding the market dynamics, but ensuring that the experience that you provide, the guest experience you provide, is on point every single time. If you're coming to your favorite restaurant and you're eating the dishes you like, it's got to be the same every time you have eaten at that restaurant. That's critical. And we do that. We check these continuously. We sit and have the same dishes every week because we like them, but also because we're also checking whether the chefs are on point again with their execution and their delivering. And I think what's also it's also key that there's a massive capitulation that happened in 23. It's still being felt today. There'll be a stabilization period, we think, until the end of 2024. Q1 25 is when we'll start to see some upswinging and a movement and some traction then on the F&B. I think the fine dining market has really going to get redefined very, very quickly. I'm conscious of my time. And I think you're going to see a lot of different people closing over the next 12 months. It is what it is. It's the nature of the sector. Yeah. And I think there'll be outliers that will still always be strong. And I think that casual premium space is the critical space that people have not really identified or know what to put there. And that's going to be the big next growth period of the next 5 years.
And Ada, final word from you.
Absolutely, I agree with Michael. I think for now, it's the diversification within the upscale space, which is the empty space. Also, to me, strong concept, relatively smaller spaces, not such big restaurants, consistency, service, and homegrown.
Brilliant. Well, Ada, Michael, Hicham, thank you so much for your insights and your wise words. I hope that we have set today's innovation stage space off on the best track possible, and I would like to just wish you all a very successful and very profitable conference. Thank you for listening and being part of this conversation.